Question for both of the candidates. First to Kay Barnes.
Mayor, it's pretty clear that the voters are very upset with Congress if you look at the approval ratings. Where do you stand on the line item veto for the president to cut out the earmarks and the pork barrel spending?
Well, I do not approve of a line item veto in the sense that I believe that gives the executive branch more power than would be responsible. In terms of earmarks, I have made my position clear in this campaign that there are problems with the process of earmarks. For example, Sam Graves does not publish, does not allow to be made known what he even recommends to committees or to a particular piece of legislation. He also does not publicize, as he should, and as I certainly did as mayor, all of the requests that are made to him. So those are two examples of what needs to be reform of earmarks.
Sam?
What you need to do for earmark reform, to be quite honest with you, is just have open debate on it. Every single earmark should be debated, and then let the individual who proposes the earmark stand up and defend it on the floor of the House. Then it's either voted up or voted down. Every earmark should be opened up that way, instead of dropped in, as Nancy Pelosi did in the Farm Bill, for instance, after the bill had passed the House, after it passed the Senate, and after it had gone through conference, was drop an earmark in there for salmon recovery. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. What you have to do is just have open debate on it and bring everyone up, every one of those earmarks up for a debate, and just let the will of the House determine whether it moves forward or not, and have a vote on it.
My question to both of you, first to Sam Graves. In 2 weeks, voters in Kansas City, Missouri go to the polls to consider light rail, an $800 million project on the local side and perhaps a like amount of money on the federal side. If elected to Congress, would you support, Sam Graves, a federal expenditure of that kind of money for light rail in Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, I'll do everything I can to help the community out in whatever they need. And I've already, secured money for the study to try to determine, the feasibility and everything. And I've made that commitment and always made that commitment. And that's the important thing. I represent the district to Washington. I don't represent Washington back to the district. And if that is what, the community wants, I'd be more than happy to work with our senators, to work with Senator Bond, Senator McCaskill, to try to secure whatever money we can for the city to move that project forward.
Kay Barnes?
Yes, certainly. I would look forward to the opportunity to work with the community on light rail. I hope the measure passes. I also hope that it has flexibility within it as we move forward for any new technology that might be on the horizon that would cut the cost of light rail as we have known it in the past. I would also like to once again ask Sam to stop lying about my raising taxes. I think all of you know in municipal government in the state of Missouri, mayors or other elected officials do not raise taxes. And every time, Sam, you say that, it is an insult and a criticism to the people sitting in this room and across the southern part of your congressional district, because those are the people who have decided to make an investment for police and fire and all of the other wonderful additions that we now have in Clay and Platte counties.
Sam Graves, a 45-second rebuttal.
Well, folks, your taxes went up over $1 billion, $1.2 billion under my opponent's watch. She wants to say that, that she runs from these tax increases. She runs from them. It was under her watch, and, she won't take credit for the tax increases, but she'll take credit for things like lowering your utility bills. You can't have it both ways. You're either the head of the city or you're not. And I'll just leave it up to you all. Taxes are a lot higher once she got finished with her 8 terms or her 8 years in office.
The next question goes to Dave Helling. First to Kay Barnes.
Okay, one of the great challenges for the next Congress and the next administration will be housing policy, broadly defined. During your time as mayor, there was sharp criticism of a quasi-public agency using $600,000 in taxpayer money to rehab a couple of homes on Tracy for an urban renewal project. What did you learn from that incident that you can take to Washington in terms of debating housing policy? And do you share any responsibility for that spending on Tracy?
What I learned from that experience was the importance of vigilance, oversight, accountability. And yes, I certainly take some responsibility in terms of having been in office during the latter portion of that problem becoming apparent. I remember working very closely with Senator Bond in resolution of that. So I did learn about the importance of accountability, and that is something that I also acted on related to housing in general as mayor, in that I instituted a series of approaches against predatory lending, which is a major issue that we are now facing today. While my opponent was in Washington for every single day of 8 years with the opportunity to increase, vote for, support more accountability, oversight, and transparency. He did not do that. In fact, he voted against those measures that would have prevented us having the national housing crisis we now face.
Sam?
Well, let's talk about the national housing crisis, that we're in, and where did it get launched from? Where did it come from? It started out with the outrageous lending practices of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which my opponent sat on the national board of Fannie Mae. She wants to run from that and say that she didn't have that much influence, or she didn't show up for that many meetings, which is even worse, to shirk her responsibility. But at the time, if you go through her speeches and you look at her press conferences, she bragged about that position. She talked about how powerful a position that was. She talked about her aggressive approach, along with Fannie Mae, to put people in houses in Kansas City. Folks, she was on the board. She's going to tell you it didn't do that much and she didn't have that much influence. She was on the advisory board. She was on there when they gave $20 million to Frank Raines, the head of Fannie Mae, and fleeced the taxpayers, you and I, fleeced us for that money. So, she can run and run and run, but it's right there. It is absolutely right there.
Mrs. Barnes, a 45-second rebuttal.
Yes. The reality is that it was an advisory board. I attended, I believe, 3 meetings in 18 months, totaling approximately 6 or 7 hours. My role in those meetings was to talk about what we were doing in Kansas City to work against predatory lending. That's what I did. Sam Graves, in contrast, was in Congress every single day for 8 years and did not vote for, in fact, voted against those regulations, the oversight and accountability that would have kept us from where we are today.